Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, or good afternoon, because this will be coming out in the middle of the day. Welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. I am your host and superior webhead master, Jarod Bachman Subs, and we are here to talk Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, a movie that has had a very, very tough road to hoe in terms of even getting released. I remember back at the beginning of the year when we were hearing about all these production woes, and I even said, I was like, I will be stunned if this movie comes out this year. And not only did it come out this year, it ended up being one of my favorites of MCU Phase 4. And I'm very excited to talk about it with our lovely guest. But before we jump into the Black Panther talk, a quick word from our lovely sponsors at Sunday's Bloody Mary. You guys know the drill by now. SundaysBloodyMary.com is the most badass Bloody Mary mix in the multiverse. They have their 2-time award-winning spicy mix, my personal favorite, as well as their mild and traditional mixes. The traditional mix is also vegan-friendly, if that is your persuasion there. They also have some fun garnishes with their pickled asparagus, dilly beans, and okra, as well as some rim salt in there as well. Also have some cute apparel there too. So go to sundaysbloodymary.com/shop. Use code TNAP, TNAP at checkout and get 10% off your order. And you help out your favorite nerds while you do it. Now, he's back. I said last time it had been too long since we had him back on the Nerd Academy podcast, and I made good on making sure that we don't have another window of too long. Darth Choco's back up in this.
Hello. Thank you so much for bringing me back on. It's always a blast. Ever since that first time, it's I don't know.
Oh yeah,
we
absolutely.
vibing. we vibing.
We always vibing. You're one of my favorite people to talk to, and yeah, I'm super excited to talk Wakanda Forever. This was like I said, man. There is the obvious setback to making a Black Panther movie that goes without saying, with the untimely passing of Chadwick Boseman. But just in terms of production issues, there were reports and rumors about Letitia Wright not exactly being down with a lot of the vaccine mandates, which was its own issue unto itself. There were, other production delays independent of that. There was the whole thing about Letitia Wright then getting injured on set, which, some people speculated was just code for she didn't want to get a vaccine and they needed to buy some time. Or if she actually did get injured, who's to say? I wasn't there. I can't vouch for anything in either direction. But be that as it may, like I said up top, I was very much like, yeah, we're not getting this movie this year. This is not coming out this year. And not only did they do it, I think they gave us one of the MCU's most beautiful and heartfelt chapters we've seen up to this point. And I think it was the perfect button to Phase 4. I know a lot of people have had a lot of things to say about Phase 4. Not all of them.
Most of it's weird.
Most of it is asinine at best. And we'll probably be doing an episode in the coming weeks, kind of like discussing Phase 4 as a whole. But yeah, this phase that was about metamorphosis and grief and growth and processing, lived and experienced trauma. I think this is like the perfect coda to that. When you begin the phase with something like WandaVision, which is all about the inability to let go and literally bending reality to your will to avoid letting go. And then you end with a story that is all about making peace and saying goodbye. And I think it's a perfect bookend. And one of the main reasons why I want to have Choco on is because to pay some lip service to friend of the show, Alden Diaz, he released an episode of Octo Radio yesterday about how Thor: Love and Thunder is basically a Star Wars movie with Joseph Scrimshaw of Force Center. And I kind of want to make the argument that Wakanda Forever also has a lot of Star Wars flavoring in there. And I thought who better to specifically touch on that subject with than Darth Choco. And we'll get into that. But Choco, your overall thoughts on the movie. Also, spoilers abound. So if you haven't seen it yet, we like it.
Yeah.
Go watch it.
Beautiful film. I mean, I didn't know what to expect going into it. Also, I have some extra personal stakes. You know, if you didn't know, I'm married. My wife is Mexican, and on her father's side is more indigenous. And so seeing it together with her, you know, it meant things on both sides.
That's so awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so going to see it, I don't know, it was just beautiful. I guess that's the best way to put it. You I apologize. Would you mind if I ran and closed the door really quick? I have some background.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. Go for it.
I'll be right back. Sorry.
No, you're good. No, I think that's amazing. And I watched a video essay yesterday. I want to say the name of the channel was Pillar of Garbage, which doesn't sound like I'm about to praise the channel, but I am. They did a great video essay about.
Terribly sorry about that.
No, you're good. No, I was just saying I saw a great video essay from a channel called Pillar of Garbage that I had never heard or seen before, and they were talking about Phase 4, and like, you know, it is inarguable the leaps and bounds that the MCU and Hollywood in general has made in terms of representation, and you know, again, in so many ways, Wakanda Forever is like the perfect button for Phase 4, where it's a very much this celebration and exploration of two very different cultures. And it's just the MCU, like Star Wars, no matter how many neck-bearded dude bros want to tell you otherwise, feeling as expansive as our own real world. Like, we are one tiny planet, and there are how many multitudes of people from different walks of life and different backgrounds. I love seeing our fiction actually look like that. Like, finally, I'm like, there's still a long way to go, you know, but like a movie like Wakanda Forever, like Eternals, like having such a diverse cast, like, is inherently good. I don't think anybody can ever argue in good faith otherwise.
And one of the beautiful things that I think they're doing is they're giving us space to exist, you know, like the conversation always comes up of like, you know, if a character's, you know, race changes at any point, you know, in a new project, is it problematic? And I think the question that always should be asked is, you know, what is gained and what is lost? You know, does their race or their appearance tie into their backstory? And it's interesting because people will try and flip the script and say, well, what if we make Black Panther white? Which is stupid to say. But it's hard to flip the script because for so long, people of color in these media had to have a reason for being a person of color.
Yeah.
And that's why you couldn't just swap it. But yeah, with this latest phase, and you know, we're getting so much more spice, and I'm loving it. I'm fascinated. Before Miss Marvel came out, I had never heard of the Partition at all. You know, I know it's just really interesting now that these projects, like they took Namor and put some tahini on him, add a little bit of spice, made a character so much more interesting. And yeah, I'm loving it. Also, Phase 4 in general, I there's been weird talk of it, and I think it has to do with it's not going to be as exciting as Phase 3 was, and it's not
Yeah.
supposed to be, right? Phase 3, if you look at like a 3 arc structure of any film, the third act, 3 act structure, the third act is the resolution of all of this buildup, right?
Yeah.
Phase 4 is phase 1 of the multiverse saga, so you're not going to get that same excitement. But put phase 4 up against phase 1 of Marvel, or even phase 2. There was some pretty
It's
low
no
cards in that
contest.
deck. You know what I mean?
It's no contest. I agree with you completely.
And then the connectivity of legacy. I mean,
yes.
Black Widow, right? We got to find out, the legacy that Black Widow left behind with her sister, Shang-Chi. We get, the history of those people, and Shang-Chi himself is the legacy from his father. Eternals have been around forever, but we're seeing how that, how the past is affecting the present. Um, you know, all these projects, Thor: Love and Thunder, he ends up with a daughter. Black Panther, we end up with another T'Challa, and Black Panther being passed down to Shuri. It's just all of these projects are very much, Hawkeye, we're passing it down. She-Hulk, Falcon
Yeah.
Winter Soldier. It's all about expanding these legacies, and I'm loving that we're getting both. We're making the universe broader and not taller, and that's always my preference, because otherwise you end up in a situation of like a sitcom that runs too long, where the characters become caricatures of
Yeah.
themselves, and I'd say I started to feel that way with Thor, because I feel like his story was largely wrapped up in his 3 movies, right? But now we can get him with a new adventure of fatherhood and kind of reset that. Yeah. So sorry, I'm just blathering on. I apologize.
No, you're good. No, I agree with you completely. And like, to piggyback off of something you said, in there, like something like Namor, it's been like this battle cry from me from the beginning, like back my old comic book show and everything, where I was always talking about how we are living in this nerd renaissance. I would always talk about my house for Halloween is like the spot, like shit ton of candy. We're giving out lemonade and hot chocolate and shit. Like it's popping. It's popping. And I would love to help because I get to see like what kids were dressing as for Halloween, which is such a very specific pulse to take of like fiction and pop culture, right? And I remember the year where I was just kind of standing there with my hands on my hips, just kind of like, okay, that's the third Ant-Man. There's a couple Doctor Strange. Spider-Man, we're used to Spider-Man. Oh, hey, Captain America. Hey, and I'm having this moment where I'm like, there's no good reason that like when I was 6, before being able to like read, older comics and stuff, I don't know who the fuck Ant-Man is,
That still
and
shocks me that Ant-Man is a household name and is played by
right?
Paul Rudd. That's
Yeah,
crazy to me.
not even Hank Pym too, which is the funniest part. Like it's Scott Lang Ant-Man that everybody's super familiar with. It is just, it makes my heart happy, that we live in this like superhero renaissance. And and again, same thing with Namor, where it's that moment of like, you can get away with anything, you can do anything. So when like all the rumors are floating around, like, ooh, Namor's going to be in Black Panther 2, and I'm like, hell yeah, he is. Let's go. And I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what to expect from Namor, and then Tenok being the rumored guy, I was like, okay, I see where this is going. This is great. And I always say that just because something is changed from the source material does not make it inherently bad. And this is one of the examples of why. Because you could have done your garden variety Atlantis story. It could have just been Atlantis. And
Mm-hmm.
we have culturally in like the milieu of pop culture seen more Atlantis stories than we can count. And maybe the fact that Aquaman is big now was also like some type of factor, and well, we can't just also have Atlantis. So we get
I mean,
this really cool like play on everything with Talokan, and I'm like, it's just so fucking cool. I love that we have a movie that is equal parts just cool as shit and just super raw and emotional and reflective. Like I love this marriage of cool shit and just being in your feels for 2 hours.
yeah. No, it's funny because like even I enjoyed the Aquaman movie for what it was, but a lot of the things in it felt played out. Felt like we've seen it before. It felt
Yeah.
like I mean, in fact, that movie itself, I felt like you could take. I felt like them traveling there felt like the first time we were traveling to Wakanda, and I felt like their story felt like Thor, and I felt like um when his mom shows up and saves him, it felt exactly like Ant-Man and the Wasp,
Yeah.
and then Black Manta. I love Black Manta. That suit felt like Tony Stark building the suit. It felt like all these weird beats, and so
Yeah.
that's why we gotta, yeah, like I said, add this spice to it. I mean, uh, in the comics, Namor means avenging sun in Atlantean, and you're like, okay, cool, whatever. In Wakanda Forever, it's El Nino Sin Amor, like the boy without love. And I don't know, it's like just the way that they depict everything is so much more thoughtful, right? Because like even in Atlantean, if his name is Avenging Sun, that's not what the Atlanteans should call him, right?
Yeah.
And and having the next group of people also be ones who are isolationists, but
Yeah.
have actually seen firsthand the destruction of colonization, and that's why they're standoffish. Uh, Versus having Wakanda, who has recently opened up its borders and is now seeing the effects of nations that really want to pillage their country for its resources and
Yeah.
think that, oh, there's no protector, so now they can. Like the way that everything was framed, it was just rife with and even in like the political climate that's currently happening, it just felt like lightning struck.
Yeah. Absolutely. And the Wakandan Talakani conflict is again like it is equal parts very much a battle. In many ways it's Wakanda looking into a mirror. It's Wakanda having to face like kind of who they used to be, and obviously nowhere near as, outwardly militant. Um but still, we see reflections in like Namor's like righteous fury. That's not different from what T'Challa was like in Civil War. And it's no
Hmm.
different than the way that like every time you saw the Dora, bless you, same way anytime you saw the Dora or anybody from Wakanda in Civil War, they just immediately were just like nut up or shut up every time they turned around. And I think it's interesting seeing Wakanda and like our main like group of Wakandans who spent so much of their time developing, becoming people who were more, open to the world and more willing to, collaborate and work together. Again, looking at, Shuri and T'Challa, especially, who the moment it was time to rock and roll in Infinity War, Shuri's trying to help Vision and T'Challa's on the front lines. And, they welcomed Team Cap and all the Avengers into Wakanda to help them. And obviously, Bucky being given safe haven there for as long as he was. And I just think it's a really fun parallel that in many ways Talokan is not only what Wakanda used to be in terms of their like isolationism, they're also a vision of what could come if Shuri were to fall victim to her worst instincts and the kind of
she wanted to
leadership.
burn the world.
Exactly. So like there's also this fun, like, this is what you could be, which kind of again like gets into that like very like someone give Ryan Coogler a Star Wars, like, or kind of having this like
Please.
her Shuri's ancestral plane moment where she sees Killmonger.
I jumped out of my seat.
Me too. Felt like Luke in the Cave of Evil and Empire.
Yeah.
Like it felt so Star Wars. And I hope that comparison makes sense to people. I hope I don't sound crazy, but like in that moment, that is all I felt like I was watching Star Wars for a minute. It was that level of like, we have an excuse to get weird and metaphysical because the Force exists. So here's all this weird shit. Just think about it for a little bit. And that's kind of what you get here, where we have an excuse to do some weird metaphysical spiritual bullshit. Think about it for a little bit.
I also love how it also dives into Shuri being, a woman of science, doesn't believe in any of this stuff, doesn't think she's gonna see anything, and she does, and that's what she sees. That's so I mean, her world has been rocked left and right, up and down, and she has not had a freaking moment to like, to sit back and consider it. And I mean, I definitely give Ryan Coogler a Star Wars, because Shuri in this feels like an Anakin on the precipice of, I've lost everything. Let's burn it down. Let's be fascists together or something. But that's but that's not the way it goes. And the way she came to those conclusions, I thought was also beautiful. Also, can we just talk about the fact that they made Namor's stupid little feet wings look cool?
Yeah,
I never thought that would ever happen. I hated those things.
When they were like, we're going to get Namor, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, so I can tell you one thing we're not getting with Namor. I was wrong, and I was happy to be wrong. And then, again, it's one of those things where, like, this feels like such high, like, again, and maybe part of, like, the Star Wars comparison for me is, like, the science fantasy of it all, where, yes, you have this futuristic, almost spacefaring aesthetic, but it's a fairy tale. That's one of the other reasons why I think I like this movie just works for me on so many levels. Is that like it feels like an epic, not epic in the way that like we've made that word mean nothing on the internet, but like epic in terms of like it like in a storytelling sense. Like it is just so big. And again, these are one of those moments where people all the time are like, oh, the stakes of phase 4 or nothing. It's like, yeah, of course not. Like the stakes aren't going to feel like we're literally fighting to save the very concept of reality from, some lunatic despot. But like even the stakes here are so huge and grand because on one hand you have like the war between Wakanda and Talokan, but on the other you also have like the looming threat of the United States kind of wanting to move in here and take advantage of this situation, and continuing
Mm-hmm.
to lay the groundwork for future projects. I very much am of the belief that uh, whatever Val is cooking up to get her hands on vibranium is going to be what involves the Thunderbolts when that story comes to pass. But yeah, just the epic nature of this story just fills me with such joy, and
Mm-hmm.
the morality play of it all. I got this same way with No Way Home, where like you killed Aunt May, you kill Queen Ramonda, and both times I'm sitting next to my girlfriend and I'm like, kill him dead. Like, and knowing that that's not what's going to happen, like knowing in my soul and knowing that like if I had my way I wouldn't want that to happen, but still having a moment where part of me was like, tear his ass up, Peter, tear his ass up,
Yeah.
Shuri. you know um like just seething with like sadistic glee, just I just want to kill you myself. With No Way Home, same thing here.
I mean, I
And
did get really happy when she cut off his little foot wing, and he and he couldn't go anywhere.
that
I
was
was like,
so it was
get
so
him,
vicious,
get him.
and again, like there's a visceral nature to this movie too. Like there's something in the way that it's shot. Like I remember realizing very quickly into the movie how intense it was going to be just from the shot we get of Ramonda coming into Shuri's lab. Be like, your brother is now with the ancestors, and like it was like it was just shot head on, looked handheld because it was a little shaky, and I was like, this is going to be an intense movie. Like I knew that going in for obvious, we are memorializing one of the great actors of our time.
Yeah,
But like that one shot conveyed so much of what this movie was going to feel like. And then you get into the action and like this movie's vicious. I between that shot of like the wings getting clipped and like even Ramonda's death, you know, like
yeah,
like there was no like they both kind of float up and then we can't wake her back up. Like she was like slumped over face in the water. Like there like that when you think of like these comic book movies that like your base demographic is like preteens and like kids and teens, that a shitload of adults have made their whole lives as well, but this movie's kind of geared for kids too. And then you have moments with like there's like an understated kind of violence to like letting Ramonda like drown like that. I feel like if they really wanted to clean it up, you would have just had her and Riri both just kind of like float up to the top, and then you can't revive her the same way Riri does. But like I said, like
you
Ramonda
know,
being slumped over is just so visceral, and like Namor almost gutting Shuri with his spear. Like,
yeah, that scene was rough. And you was like, oh, oh, damn. No,
yeah,
specifically with Ramonda drowning, um, the way that it was shot, because it wasn't she died because he drowned her, it was she
yes,
died saving this girl, and she gave everything she could to get her back up to the surface. And even so, even in her death, she was powerful and strong, which,
yes,
by the way, you see her shoulders and like, I mean, girls. Angel Basket's looking good. We'll just
yeah,
say that. We'll just say that.
yeah. I
Uh,
and that's one other thing. I just want to any like actual movie critics. I don't. I'd like to think of myself as one, but I know I'm not. Y'all need to stop when a movie comes out immediately talking about who deserves an Oscar. Because 9 times out of 10, such and such deserves an Oscar for this role means they fucking die.
That's true.
I need y'all to stop saying that shit when you come out of a movie. Because I know what you mean. And I'm tired of knowing someone's going to die going in because of award season buzz. God damn it. Anyway.
Can we also appreciate that within 1 week, we had an incredible Andy Serkis speech. We had an incredible Stellan Skarsgård speech. And then we had some amazing, Ramonda Angela Bassett stuff. Like, yes, this is a golden age of being a geek, but the quality was never there before, and it is here now. And it's as morbid as it is to sound, like the acting performances were incredible in this film because you felt that loss. And I originally was on team, recast T'Challa. And I was wrong, because having seen their performance, like, these actors are real people and they've lost. This isn't a rebooting of a franchise.
Yeah.
These are real people that knew this man and they lost him. Well, we lost him, and you couldn't just put someone else in the suit. Like, I don't know how well you could act the chemistry and act all that stuff. And I think they played it in a pretty damn well way, especially when we get to the end and find out, we kind of do have another T'Challa.
I've always felt I've never been a hard and fast, like, let T'Challa die in the narrative or recast T'Challa. I think there's absolutely merit to either side of that argument. And I think that, like, for example, a lot of people recently have been talking about in the comics in recent years why T'Challa and Namor fucking hate each other. Because Namor flooded Wakanda.
Yeah.
And there's a part of me that looks back on that and goes, yeah, I would have liked to have seen the Namor T'Challa rivalry. But then I also I think a little bit longer and I go, but I wanted to see it with Tanoch opposite Chadwick. And it's a really difficult thing to do and say, especially now that we have Wakanda Forever. I think that, and just because it's the quickest comparison I can make, I don't think they're that similar beyond just the, here's the idea. I hope one day we get to see what that original screenplay that was written before Chadwick passed looked like. Because for no other reason, assume we keep this entire story the same. We just recast the Black Panther. Which story do we prefer? I think it very much end up being like Duel of the Fates versus the Rise of Skywalker, where, and granted, Duel of the Fates wasn't even, it was like a draft of a draft of a draft of a draft, and there had a lot of things that
it was pretty rough.
Yeah, and
but that would have been worked out. Yeah. So
yeah, and weird conversations about how they depict the Force, notwithstanding with Duel of the Fates. Myself and many other people have all said, there are parts of Duel of the Fates that I wish I could just chop out and drop into the Rise of Skywalker, right? And maybe we'll see in the future, if we ever get to see what that screenplay looked like. I don't think we ever will. To go, okay, well, I like this element from this one, so maybe tweak this or whatever. And again, we'll never know. And granted, the other huge difference is that Ryan Coogler is at the helm of both. So who knows how much of his own ideas he was able to readapt to this new story. But now that Wakanda Forever is out and it's incredible, I have a hard time like saying, can you really do the recast T'Challa thing? I'm gonna be right back while that phone rings. Andy in Kansas, you're on. Thanks for holding.
Let's see. Oh, and you're muted.
Every time I forget to take the phone off the hook is when it goes off. But no, so we'll never know. I have a hard time though now that we have this movie, this incredible work of art, saying I want something different than it. If that makes sense, like I have a hard time parlaying what would have been better.
Yeah.
And I just, like I said, this movie that is at once a thrilling action flick with incredibly choreographed fights and beautiful scenery that is also deeply about grief and moving on. Um, and to go back to something you were saying with Shuri and like her disbelief in the mysticism of like Wakandan tradition, I think it's really fascinating the way that this whole movie that's framed around like T'Challa's supporting cast, that like really small threads that get picked up. Because if you go back to Black Panther
Yeah.
1, like Shuri was just like the vibe you just get from her is like, oh, she's the youngin who like isn't super down with tradition. Like the whole, like every time, like it's like, hey, can I get out of here? This outfit's super uncomfortable, man. It's like, oh man, I got to put on all that makeup, like that's her whole thing throughout the movie is like, I'm not a traditionalist. Everybody else is like fighting with these like like cool spears and shit, and there's Shuri with just like sonic cannons, letting them loose. Like she has this forward-minded like almost anti-traditionalism, and I think that it is ingenious to pick that thread up and go, okay, we're going to open the movie with her praying to a god she does not believe in. Like, genius. And you can tell that Ryan Coogler has always been in the heads of these characters. I don't think that one could like, and it speaks to the mastery of the first Black Panther and how rich these characters are between Coogler's writing and all of the performances, that the groundwork is laid enough that you can expand these characters outward.
I mean, you can look at Okoye,
yeah,
and how devoted she was to not letting anything happen, but then it gets brought up. You sided with the kingdom against my family, and like that was a thread that I didn't think they would touch on, but they absolutely do. If you look at M'Baku, which I love him so much,
M'Baku forever,
and and his character growth in the past 6 years between these films. I saw someone trying to say, "Oh, it was bad because they emasculated him," and you're like, "Yeah, it's because you don't know what masculinity is." At no point was he ever weak, or he did exactly everything he could to care for his people, and I think that's the best depiction of masculinity, is the way he treated everyone.
Yes.
And the way he showed respect to the women around him, like the ability to protect the people that you care about is part of masculinity. But to turn that into domination of other people, to turn that into your ability to commit violence and how good at that you are, that's not good masculinity, right? And so you have to calibrate those, and I think he did it extremely well with being there for all of these people.
I mean, I think you can also juxtapose that with Killmonger in the first movie, who very
Mm-hmm.
prominently kills 2 women. You know, like he shoots Claw
His
through his
girlfriend.
girlfriend,
Yeah.
and then he like practically decapitates Adora Milaje. Like it's, I think that is intentional. I think it is a very
Yeah.
intentional decision made on Coogler's part. But no, I'm glad you brought up M'Baku and Okoye, because I also love the journey they go on in this story. Because M'Baku also has like a really fun arc, you know, where in the first movie, you know, he and the Jabari are very much this, you know, this outcast tribe. And over the course of the first Black Panther, we see him rise to the occasion to help stop Killmonger. And then going into Infinity War, we see that M'Baku has been like made, you know, part of the team. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like we're all, you know, copacetic to each other. And, you know, see him standing on the front lines for the Battle of Wakanda, and how that goes even further now into, you know, being so close to like the council elders and all of those people, that, you know, he goes from kind of like being this like hot-headed, like, you know, like we deserve leadership, we deserve our place, we deserve, and he becomes like a more noble leader, and
Yeah.
realizes that, you know, it's very like he's like a cooler Boss Nass, to make another Star Wars comparison. Like,
You're not wrong, but I hate it.
I know I didn't want to have to
No,
say it.
it works. It works. It works.
Uh, now I want to hear, because I know everybody on TikTok is doing the whole like, these people do not call him general or king.
They call
God,
him
I want
Kulkan.
I want Winston Duke in his M'Baku voice to just read Boss Nass lines.
I'd be down for that. For
Used to
sure.
have a life play with this and his and anyway. But no, but it's that same dynamic though, where it's, you know, we need to recognize that even though we don't jive with you and you don't jive with us, we're gonna go do our own thing, but we can't do our own thing. Because when the shit hits the fan, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
And seeing that them, like, you know, him put aside that difference and everybody kind of come together, and you see him earn kingship at the end of the movie, you know? And I think that is beautiful. I think him going from
Trying to take the kingship to,
exactly. And
yeah.
I think it's a really cool arc M'Baku got to go on. And part of me really, and I understand why, like, for obvious fucking reasons, we've avoided using the Gray Gorilla moniker.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna say he's such a problematic comic book character, but
yeah. But like part of me hopes he gets a suit down the road. And however they try to characterize that, like I leave that in the hands of Black creators and fans who have every right to have more of an opinion on the matter than I do. My only take and opinion is I want M'Baku in a suit, and I don't care what it
yeah.
is. I just want him in some type of power suit, because my man deserves to not have to fight in like wood armor anymore. Um,
I
After
just want to give
Namor
him a
almost
heart-shaped
punched,
herb.
yeah, oh man, he'll be so out of control. Like, dude almost got his heart punched out by Namor. Like, can we get him something a little more heavy duty? That is my only request. You can go with whatever moniker you want to give him. But yeah, like I said, like even M'Baku gets to go on the journey.
And then
And again,
Nakia as
yeah.
well. Who is, by the way, just gorgeous all throughout. Upsettingly so, but it's really fascinating that she went to Haiti.
Yeah.
Right at the very beginning, it was the French that were trying to take over the outreach center, which the French famously are the largest colonizers of Africa and Haiti. before Haiti rose up and tossed them out. And it's interesting that she moved to Haiti.
That is a really good connection. That is clever. Yeah, that did
Yeah.
not occur to me.
And I mean, it's definitely intentional because they threw off those shackles and where she was at was completely self-sufficient. And I know there's just some beautiful messagery in that, and her not being at the funeral did bug me until you think about it, and like, she lost him in the snap. He came back. She lost him again. Um, he only got to spend a year with his son. There's and he saw the strife of these kids growing up with that pressure. There's I mean, I bawled my eyes out at the end. You know,
I yeah.
you know how when you ugly cry, your face makes that like a ghoulish, like you feel your cheeks and stuff contract.
Your face
My
caves in a little bit.
yeah, I was on the teetering edge of the ugly cry, so it would just like go in and out, and it just felt awful.
It's funny you say that because I gotten choked up many times throughout the movie. I had gotten like a little like, and like and granted, like I'm a movie crier. I cry like a baby. Most movies will get a reaction out of me. But I had that like, okay, I mostly kept it together. His name is T'Challa. Like fucking done. Lost it. I just like shoulders going this no, I got finished off by meeting T'Challa the second. Which I'm so excited for. Cause like there's gonna be some type of like not like a grand enough time skip to like warrant putting him in a suit. But I think there will be with like Kang
All the
Dynasty or
Avengers are gonna
Secret
die.
War.
All the
Like
Avengers
there's
are gonna die or be transported somewhere else. Thunderbolts are gonna take over, but they're all gonna be really crappy. And the only hope is gonna be the next generation, which is what we're gonna see in the later Avengers movie. That's my theory.
I hope you're right.
They're
So
even building
much.
up stature, which
Yeah,
I didn't mean that as a pun, but yeah.
No, that's clever. But yeah, no, I just and everything, and we've been talking a lot about like plot and character so far, but I also just goddamn Ludwig Göransson, man,
Yeah.
and I get excited every time he's announced for a project, because I cut my teeth on Ludwig Göransson being a Childish Gambino guy.
Mm-hmm.
So like
Like,
for the longest time I hear Ludwig Göransson, I'm thinking camp, I'm thinking because of the internet, I'm thinking Awaken My Love, I'm thinking of him as like a hip hop producer, and then they're like, yeah, he's gonna do the music for Black Panther. I was like, yo, no fucking way. Low key became a little disappointed that Donald Glover already plays Prowler, but not yet because he's not actually Prowler yet, but.
whatever. We can put him back in.
You put him back in.
I'm cool with that.
But I remember there were rumors that Donald Glover was supposed to be in the movie, and there was a part of me that was like, let Aaron Davis be like making Prowler tech out of Wakandan like vibranium weaponry. And wanted that so badly. But again, like there's probably some weird fuckery with Sony and the rights to whatever that sliding Prowler in at such a perfect place wouldn't have worked. But anyway, like I was just so excited for Ludwig, and then the music for Wakanda for Black Panther is incredible. Obviously his work on The Mandalorian has been also remarkable.
Stellar, yeah.
Dubstep trap dark trooper music is my jam. And then now here, like he every time he outdoes himself. Every time he outdoes himself somehow. I don't know where his cap is, but every time it elevates.
He's like a character actor, but for music. Like like when there's so many people who every role it's like, oh, that's just them. And, it's like I feel like The Rock acts a little less in every project. Um, but there's people that just absolutely transform, and that's the music. You hear it and you're just like, this is incredible. Who did this? And it's him. It's not I hear this and I know it's him. And that's what I appreciate. It's all for the project.
This motherfucker don't miss.
No, he's fucking good.
That motherfucker don't miss, man.
He's good.
In the heat of battle, he don't miss.
No.
In the heat of controversy, he don't miss.
That applies to both Ludwig
Absolutely.
and Choco. But yeah, no, I just the I can't remember the title of the track, but the music that plays when Shuri and Namor are floating around Talokan, that has just been all over the internet. Just I've had that melody stuck in my head. It's just, which, thinking about what the Talakani can do with the whole Siren song is actually kind of concerning. Having Talakani music stuck in my head probably means I should stay away from a swimming pool, but that's neither here nor there.
Do you ship them?
I am so glad you asked me, Choco. And it is funny because I keep making these Star Wars comparisons, and I'm a devout Reylo, and I'm not a big fan of the Reylo comparisons.
Neither am I. I don't think it's the same at all.
I don't I understand I understand the it hits a couple similar beats. It hits it obviously it's an enemies to lovers, so obvious comparison there. And you have the whole I captured you moment, but there's also a weird heart to heart that happens. It hits a lot of Reylo beats, but it's like if Reylo happened out of order. They meet, she gets captured, she gets taken to Starkiller base. Then we get a bunch of the shit that happens in The Last Jedi. And then we go back to the plot of The Force Awakens, and we never get the I wanted to take your hand, Ben's hand, that we get in The Rise of Skywalker. We don't get any of the confessing of feelings and explanation of anything. We just get a little bit of the hey, they're starting to warm up to each other. Hey, they want to fucking kill each other. And I don't ship them. I understand why people ship them. And I understand why people love a good enemies to lovers. And I'm not going to use their bare knuckle fucking brawl in the desert as a reason for it to be problematic. I don't it's fucking pretend. And you it's pretend, and you just want to watch two hot people make out. That's fine. I don't care. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not going to finger wag at people who are shipping Shuri and Namor. But by the same token, I just don't think the dynamics
also real quick.
Similar.
I hate when people are like, Reylo's so problematic because he tortured her. And you're like, no, he wasn't abusive to her while they were, you know, it's not like he choked his pregnant wife or something.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, I mean, and even going that far,
but I'm not even I'm actually not a Reylo myself, but there's some of the discourse that feels like you're trying to say something else and blame it on this. That's
and I'll even go a step further. The novelization even says that Kylo Ren's using a gentler touch with Rey than he's using with Poe. That they already have a kindred spirit thing going on, and again, people always want to put that on Kylo Ren. I would like to remind you all of whom almost cut whom's fucking head off.
This is also very true.
Just saying.
But so more than Reylo, I actually got more Sauron Galadriel vibes.
Okay. I've not seen Rings of Power, but I know, I'm aware. I'm culturally aware. I've not watched it, but I'm pop culturally osmosis have taken some of that in.
I feel like media lately is really leaning into the trend of if evil, why hot? But
And I mean, that's the thing I really love with Namor is like, I have a hard time calling him evil. He's not needlessly cruel.
Yeah.
Like you don't see him relishing in what he does to Wakanda. Like he has his put my balls on the table moment of the I'll be back in a week, mourn you're dead, you're queen now. Like, but at no point is he like laughing or enjoying what he's doing. Again, I'm gonna throw back to No Way Home. Like, there's no like sadistic like
yeah.
look on his fucking face like Green Goblin or anything.
Plus, every time he straight up says, he's like, "Yeah, we should work together." He's like, "But is this a threat?" He's like, "Well, yeah, if you go against me, I will murder you and every
Yeah.
person you love." But like,
The cards
I
on the
don't want
table.
to
I
do
will
that.
fuck you up. I will tear your ass up. I don't want to though.
And that's he's so intense but sincere,
Yeah.
and like I couldn't picture him as a character lying to anyone, even his enemy.
Yeah.
And he does drink his respect women juice,
Yeah.
that's for sure as well.
Yeah. He's
Doesn't
God,
look
I can't
down
wait.
at anyone,
I cannot wait for more Namor. I cannot wait for more Namor. Just in my core, I cannot wait. But yeah, I think we're kind of ready to bring it into the station here. Choco, any final thoughts and a letter grade?
Whew. Final thoughts. Okay. Him saying he's a mutant, and how old he is, super freaking cool. And I have many, many theories now on exactly how this is being incorporated, although some of them kind of verge on DC territory with the stuff that they were doing with metal, with the Dynesium and the Electrum and all that stuff. But
you were on the same wavelength, because I had a brief moment where I'm like, are they gonna tie the mutants to fucking vibranium? Like, is that how this is gonna play out? Like, are we gonna say that like mutant kind was radiated by vibranium? Because if that's the direction they go, I'm just gonna be a little bit salty, not because it's like different from the comics or whatever, but just because I was so close to being right, but still clearly wrong. Because my whole thing was you can like backdoor the X gene being activated en masse through all of the radiation coming from all of the snaps.
yeah. Which I'm still on that wavelength though. Like that it is cosmic radiation that activates an X gene, and some of that could come from a snap. In Wanda's case, it may have come from the I mean, she had her power prior to it, but it really kicked up in high gear. But that could also apply to vibranium because it is a space rock, and this could be something that is also ancient from the birth of the universe. It could also be a shell that celestials fall to Earth in, or something like that. There's a lot of possibilities. Anyways, I have many thoughts, many theories. I could go on forever. My letter grade is. I think I need to see it again. I'm super hype on it right now. I'm gonna say a 9.5 out of 10. And the only reason for that is this movie actually needs 4 hours.
You want to be longer.
There's a lot of characters. There's a lot of things that should have been expanded. Certain things felt short, but none of them. But there wasn't really any fat on this movie.
I agree with you.
That's where I'm at.
I'm right there with you. You took the words right out of my mouth. Right out of my mouth. I completely concur. Yeah. Choco, before I do the end of show stuff, where can lovely people find you and what you do?
Yeah, I'm Darth Choco on TikTok, Darth Choco on YouTube. I host the High Ground podcast where, right now we're talking Andor. The following, technically the same day, um, at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and on my YouTube channel. I also have the Diet and the Force podcast, which is on Saturdays. So I am around. Also follow me on Twitter, Darth Choco 7 on Twitter. I've gotten a lot nicer on Twitter. I was mean at the beginning, but I can be kind of dickish though still.
No. Keep that energy. Keep that energy. We need this. It is the end times for Twitter. We need warriors.
It's sometimes it's fun to watch this thing burn, but it's also very concerning.
I agree. As somebody who loves Twitter, I'm hoping the worst does not come to pass. But if it does, I'm prepared to become the Twitter Luthen rail and just find my warriors.
What have I given up? Everything.
What have I given up? Likes, retweets. I get ratioed all the time. Anyway, but you guys can find me or find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I go first. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552, Twitter and Instagram, and on TikTok because I'm trying to get better at TikTok. I say that every time we have somebody who's normally mostly on TikTok on, and I actually post a couple videos and then I fucking forget again.
I'm trying to get better at YouTube, so we're it's a similar boat.
Yes, yeah, you and I are not so different. But you guys can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and on our website www.thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon. Give me $1. Speaking of our Patreon, thank you. First of all, new episode of the Versus series is out now for a $5 tier and up. Satele Shan versus Grandmaster Yoda. Battle of the Grandmasters is out now. And December 1st, we actually did something on time, guys. It's already scheduled to go out. Kit Fisto versus Mace Windu is also banked up and ready to come out at the beginning of December. So I hope you guys enjoy both of those. And Spencer and I are going to try to get to work on the tournament as fast as we can. All that said, thank you to our $10 alumnus. And one of them, a very special happy birthday to Nick Johnson. That's a birthday screech from them. We got Keandre Lloyd. Real-time footage of me seeing Killmonger. Both of us, as you said, you were out of your seat too. It's just such a good scene. It's just such a good scene. It's
He's
moments
just so
like that.
Captivating. I can't wait for Creed.
Listen, Killmonger. Sometimes I like to think that, like, subjective morality is a thing on some level. That, like, the right thing to do in certain situations is different than the right thing in others. And I'd like to think that I know situationally what the right thing to do is. And I don't know if it's because Michael B. Jordan looks like that, or he's just, as you said, that captivating an actor, or how many facts he is in fact spitting. But I'd have a hard time not siding with Killmonger. And he just every time, and again, we are coming off of me being like, I hope Shuri kills Namor for killing Ramonda, and then the first thing I see is like, are you gonna be noble like your brother or get business done like me? And I'm like, you get that business done and you fry that fish motherfucker right now. Anyway, I have a hard time disagreeing with Killmonger. I'm a big fan. I'm a fan. I like his work.
There's quite a few people where if he's, was take my hand and we'll watch the world burn together. I could see that being effective. I'm just saying.
Yeah. It makes me happy that I'm not alone. But I also wanted to call attention to something very funny. I don't know if they changed their name yet, but Paco, who currently, yes, he did change it. Paco, who changes his name all the time. I don't know if he had changed it yet, Choco, whenever you won for Tales of the Jedi. But Paco had changed his name to the $965 million to reflect the amount of money that the person in his clip owes. But they recently updated it with the updated charge. So thank you to $1.5 billion, baby.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
I'm glad we're taking his money.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. And it also looks like the caps in the Texas like 400 something million are also going to be removed. So it's hefty price tag. Everybody go check out everything Choco does. I said it before and I'll say it again. He's one of my favorite people on nerd TikTok in general. Very funny, very insightful, and love talking to you. And like I said, the moment I'm able to come on the High Ground podcast, I am just going to Kool-Aid man my way onto that stream when I am not actively tending a bar. Like I said, new Versus series out now. Go check that out. We're going to try to have some Andor talk up this weekend. Again, scheduling for that has been kind of rough. So stay tuned for that. And hopefully very soon we'll also have a Phase 4 retrospective to talk about all of the amazing projects we've gotten over the last couple of years from Marvel. So with that, thank you all so very much for watching. And class dismissed.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.